If we will, Mrs. Berner.
Sure. Mayor Lowry is absent this evening. Councilman Grimm, also absent. Councilwoman Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilman Cobb.
Here.
Councilwoman Eggleston.
Here.
And Vice Mayor Cook.
Here.
All right, we've got 4 members present.
Okay, and we will have the invocation by Councilwoman Cobb.
Dear Heavenly Father, help give us the guidance to do what we feel is right.
Give me 1 second.
Watch, help us make the right decisions and watch over our fire and EMS and our military personnel and help us get through this virus the best way we can. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Okay, since we're missing the flag, shall we do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
Pledge of allegiance.
Do the flag.
Of the United
States of America,
and
the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and
for all.
justice for all.
Okay, we have no action on any minutes. Communications, have we got any communications?
None this evening. Can I be excused for 3 minutes to take a phone call?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the city manager's report is not applicable. And comments from the members of the public.
Are you in the right meeting?
Said we had nobody at the moment. We'll get back to that. Committee reports are none, resolutions none, ordinances none. Do you have any comments from members of the public, Mr. Bridge?
We do not at this moment.
All right. I believe we're down to other business for
Mr.
the
Grimm
interview.
joining us here shortly. Thanks, Mr. Grimm.
I see
Randy, can you quickly put a link, send me a link to the city charter?
I'll get that to you, Linda.
Let's get Mr. Councilman Grimm up and going.
I thought I had it here, but I don't have it, and I'm getting sent someplace else.
Okay, I assume we're waiting on Dale. Do you have both Mr. Woodwald and Mr. Cook in the ante room?
I do believe one of them is in here. One is not.
Okay.
Dale is connecting to audio, so we're
Mhm.
getting there.
Hello.
Maybe Dale's connecting audio.
Okay, Dale, just go ahead and exit out of that. I'm going to send you a new link and see if we can start over again. Thanks. Give me 1 second, everyone.
There he is.
Oh, is he there?
Yep.
He's up
So
on the video.
there he is.
Is your audio working, Mr. Grimm?
You tell me.
Yep.
Hear you. Can you hear us?
Yep,
Sounds good.
I have no packet for tonight.
That was emailed out over the weekend. I can send it to you real quick.
All right, do we want to go ahead and start on the interviews then?
Okay, Mr. Grimm should have that. I have one in the waiting room, so I'm going to let you guys get started with, we'll see who it is. It's under by the name of Megan. I think it's Mr. Rockwall. Oh, it's Mr. Cook. Mr. Cook, I'm going to let you guys go ahead with Mr. Cook, and then I'm going to have Mr. Rockwall connect. So I'm actually going to mute myself and then excuse myself from the meeting. And then I will check back here in a minute to make sure everything's going well.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself right now.
Hello, Marcus.
How you doing?
Fabulous.
Good to see you again, my friend.
Now that the stupid technology is working.
Yeah,
Are you
Seems to
sure
be at
it's
this
working?
point.
it'd be great to get back to normal, right?
Yes.
I agree.
All right, Peggy, do you want to start off? Have you got any questions for Mr. Cook?
What do you think that we need to work on as a council for the city?
What do I think you need to work on? I think, well, after we get done with this pandemic, I think just building that relationship with the members of the community again, since everyone's been kind of locked away and everything. I think it's important to get out there and try to build some relationships with people and see what they're thinking about things that are happening in the community and what they would like. But yeah, basically, I feel that we just need to get out there, and since we haven't been out there lately, and try to rebuild some of those relationships.
Okay,
Okay, does that wrap you up, Peg?
yeah, I guess.
Okay, if you got something else, go ahead.
I don't know if I do or not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, lump in anytime. Mr. Grimm.
I have spoken with Mr. Cook several times at previous council meetings. I have heard the comments that he's made. I don't have any questions. I think I know him pretty well.
All right. Linda, have you got any questions?
What unique thing do you think that you bring to the council that we can really use?
What unique thing? Let's see. Well, upper management for most of my life, but I wouldn't say that's really unique. I live in a community. I care about my community. I have a younger son that's grew up in this Tecumseh school system. So I think just, again, I've said it before, but just building those relationships with the community and really coming down with figuring out what they want and what they need from us is going to help us extremely.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything further, Linda?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Mr. Cobb.
Well, Mr. Cook, thank you for applying for the third time.
Yes, sir.
And how do you feel about our interstructural?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
How do you feel about our interstructural?
How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
I think everything can be, perfected. I don't think anything's perfect. I think that there's a definite effort, and I think everyone sees the effort. So I just think we just need to keep doing what we're doing.
All right, how do you feel about, the spending of the city, what on spending on their funds?
I haven't really disagreed on anything that's happened lately. I think we need to, that's why we have the council, is to, so we can have a group and not one person making, decisions for the city. So I think that as we're, together, that's kind of what we do, is we make those decisions, and for the better of the citizens of New Carlisle. So I think it's just something that we all do.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Well, if you were not to be selected, I'd hope that you would want to try to run here in another year, because there will be 3 of us up for re-election. And I'd like to see, I don't want you to get your hopes down or anything if you don't make it, that you do at least try to run.
Sure. I've been told that by a lot of people. Hopefully this will be the go-to round.
I thank you for your time there, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Marcus, you and I have talked a little bit in the past.
Yes, sir.
I guess my concern is knowing full well that our budget is down
Yes.
considerably from the fact of this virus. Our income is down probably about $3 million as I see it. What would you do if you were on council in order to possibly get our budget in line?
I just think understanding and having the citizens understand why the budget is the way it is. I think that a lot of people get really riled up about budgets, and we understand that in business, and the city is a business, that we have to, sometimes there's things that we can't get right now and we can try for later. And some things have to be put on hold. And again, we are put in that position to make those decisions for the citizens, and we just hope that they understand, where we're coming from.
There are several big ticket items that we're looking at possibly here shortly. Would you think that most of those big ticket items, unless they are of a dire necessity, should be put off until we are in a better financial position?
Yes, I do, unless it's an emergency.
Okay. Other than that, has anybody else got anything else that they would like to ask Mr. Cook? If not, I will echo.
I do. I have a question.
Go ahead.
You said you want to engage the Latin community. How would you go about doing that?
I didn't say that.
I'm sorry.
I said I wanted to engage all the community. I didn't break it into any certain.
I was looking at the wrong one.
That's okay. I want to engage all the citizens. I don't want to segregate into groups. I want to work for everyone.
I'm done.
Yes, sir.
You're done. Okay. Again, Marcus, like I say, I'm glad to see that you applied again. Again, if you don't make it this time, please, as Mr. Cobb has said, I think you would be a valuable asset. So I
don't
would
know
say
if he
that,
more runs in me. I'll give it this shot. But this is my third time, so third time's a charm, I guess.
Perseverance.
Yes, sir.
is what it takes. And I'll be honest with you, we need good people that have an active interest in the city. And for some reason, we don't seem to be bringing in, I guess the word is the quality of the people that we need to. I'm glad to see both you and Mr. Rodewald responded. There were several other people that had mentioned that they were going to put in an application, but consequently did not. So
I'm
other than that,
very serious about working for the citizens, and that's why I reapplied. It's very important to me that my child grows up in a great community.
all right. Other than that, we appreciate your active interest.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah.
Have a good evening, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, sir.
You're
You're
not on.
muted, Randy.
Vice Mayor, am I clear to go ahead and end the interview with Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to end it. Mr. Cook, thank you. And then we're going to have Mr. Rodewald join with us as well. Give me 1 second to get it going in the
Have a
back.
good evening.
Thank you.
Have Mr. Rodewald join. Okay, you're good to go. Mr. Rodewald, can you hear us okay? You good? Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yep.
Okay, Dan, welcome to another evening with council. I'm glad to see that you're actively interested in joining this. I don't know whether it's a circus or a zoo.
Either way.
Depends on what day it is, right?
Nobody answered.
A
I think it
steamer's body was probably
depends
the worst description there.
depends on the day of the week, I think it is. Anyhow, let's start interviewing Mr. Rodewald. Peggy, we'll start with you again.
Oh, don't start with me again.
Oh, okay.
I'll ask.
Go ahead, Linda.
I've seen that you're pretty active in the community. How would you say that your interactions have been? Have they developed beyond task-oriented, so that you're talking with people about the community?
Oh, yes. I mean, at the ballpark, for as much as I am, obviously this year being the exception, I talked to several members of the local community about other things beyond what we do at the ballpark, what the feelings are with the how the city's progressing. Also, my younger two are involved with local youth football association. So when that's in session too, we also have conversations outside the spectrum of the sporting event. And I communicate with quite a few people in the city through social media, and I live right here on Lake Street, so I see a lot of people walk past the house, and we have several conversations about the daily ongoings of the city and where I think we could go, where we should go, and what's best for what's the future for New Carlisle.
What would you, if you could pick one thing that you'd like to see change or happen in New Carlisle, grow in New Carlisle, what would that be?
I don't think it's one thing. I think it's quite a few things, which the city has made some great strides over the last handful of years with street improvements, the new lighting improvements. I just saw Madison Street. City or the Springfield got the grant to tear that down. That's a much needed, overdue thing. That was a sore spot for a lot of city residents. Not only the money that was invested into it, but the lost opportunities. Bringing in more business is always a great thing, but the city of New Carlisle sits in a tough spot. Where we sit a little too far off of 75 and 70 to draw in any big industry, but yet still close enough where we could probably get some smaller, smaller industrial size companies. But I think that the city's done a remarkable job over the last, like I said, handful of years, improving the city looks. I think the new city building downtown is going to help bring a little bit more traffic, help the local businesses down there, either from the local coffee shop, the clothing store across the street, the art dealer, the jewelry downtown. I think all those are positive. I would like to see us maybe reach out more to the local Hispanic population. I mean, that's a growing population in the city of New Carlisle. It's not going to dwindle. It's going to continue to grow. I think we need to probably reach out to them, find who their community leaders are, get some of their concerns and what they would like to see inside the city as well. The more we encompass everybody, the better off the city is going to be going forward, whether it's next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Cobb,
Well, my answer just got answered there. Mr. Rowell, I appreciate you putting an application in, and
Yes,
I
sir.
know you've been involved with baseball,
Yes, sir.
and it's not a fun task down there. It's a headache. I've been there.
I mean, it can be. I mean, it is what you make of it, and I enjoy it. I truly do. We got a good group of board members. We're small, but we know what it takes to try to get the job done. And I truly do enjoy it. My kids are down there playing. If I wasn't on the board, I'd be down there helping, whether it's just watching baseball or just helping with the field. So I truly do enjoy everything I do at the ballpark. I was sad that we couldn't get a season this year, but understand the reasoning why.
Well, that's all like I say, my answers have been all, or questions have already been answered through Mrs. McCloskey.
Mr.
I'm
Grimm.
done, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Grimm.
You said that, well, first of all, thanks for applying, Ben.
Yes, sir.
You said that many voices in the community are not being heard.
Yes.
The city's
Well,
on Facebook, all the council members are on
Yeah,
Facebook.
yeah.
Our phone numbers, our emails are made public.
Mhm.
How would you go about making sure they get heard?
Well, I don't want to retract that statement, but I don't think not being heard was probably the right statement. I think there's voices that tend to drown out other voices. For everything that the city does right, or 5 things that city does right, there's one hiccup, whether it's a misstatement or a bad choice of words or a small issue that drowns out the positive things that the city has done over this time. As for reaching out, I mean, you guys do a great job. I mean, it's the old adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Right.
You guys have put up all the, like you said, from the social media accounts to the YouTube videos to posting your personal numbers and email addresses online. You've done all the right things. Now it's just, it's time that unfortunately some of the citizens of this city need to take some responsibility. And if they do have issues, understand that they could relay them in more of a constructive way than just blasting the city and all negative. You can't, if you got an issue, you got to come with a solution to the issue. And that's the problem I see a lot of people have is they have issues, but then they don't give you any way to solve those issues or any positive criticism. Well, hey, have you ever thought about doing it this way or that way? So, and that's just not unique to the city of New Carlisle. It's unique to this country as a whole right now. A lot of people think the louder you are, the more you get things accomplished. I am not one of those. There's really not a right answer or wrong answer to what can be done more. You guys have done a lot to get the community involved. But like I said, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. And you just got to continue to put out those those invites and things of that nature to try to get more of the citizens involved. I watched the council even before we had to go to the Zoom meetings and stuff and online. You look at the meetings at the shelter house, and it was always the same handful of people, 8 to 10 or 12, that would always be there expressing their concerns. Usually those encompass most of the concerns of the city, but there's also concerns from those who either are too, I don't want to use the word afraid, but too shy maybe to put themselves out there. So they talk through an intermediate. And for whatever reason, I've become one of those intermediates, whether it's my willingness to put myself out there on social media, or the fact that I'm so easily found inside the city. I can't explain that.
Okay. Well, I've got the right guy this time. How would you how would you engage the Latin community?
I mean, it's twofold. You have to, and Mayor Lowry's done a great job getting, and I'm sure all you have, but with the family that owns the local grocery store in town, they seem to be more in tune with the Hispanics and the Latin community. And you got to first find who are they willing to listen to, and who are they willing to not complain to, but have their issues brought up with. So I think, first it starts with building relationships with your local Hispanic and Latin businesses in town, whether it's the grocery store, the food trucks, those are really about the only places that you see Hispanics and Latins congregate in. So you got to build a good relationship with them. And then eventually, hopefully you convince one or two of them to try to get more involved so we can understand their concerns. It's got to start at the ground roots there. That's where I think New Carlisle is hurt, that we don't have another place where Latins can congregate and feel comfortable. I would love to see a soccer field of some sort here in town. That's what Latins love to play, is soccer, and the closest soccer fields they can go play at are in Park Lane. I think we lose a lot where we it's hard to communicate and get to know the people that are looked upon as leaders in the Latin community when they have to go outside of town to congregate in a larger park setting. So.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Hey, get your turn.
Well, I think he's answered all my questions through everybody else. I was wondering, you mentioned that you need an influence of the youth. How would you go about doing that, getting the youth involved?
Peggy, if I had that answer, I wouldn't be applying for council. It's hard. It's difficult, especially in this time and age. And I mean, I'm not no youth. I'm 46 years old. But it's just, again, it's continued outreach. I think, trying to do things that draw in, like the skate park competition was really good this past 2 weeks ago. Losing the Heritage of Flight, that hurt this year, because those are just times where you can get youth involved, where they don't think they're being involved, where they're just think they're hanging out, and you actually get to communicate and talk to them where they don't feel any pressure. You try to get them in settings where they feel comfortable, whether it's, at the local coffee shop here in town. Like I said, the ballpark, you hear a lot of stuff at the ballpark that people don't think you hear, because they feel like they're in a comfortable setting. So they speak a lot more freely, versus say at a council meeting or in any other type of professional setting. So it's try to get the younger folks, probably not so much your 18 to 25, but your 20, 26 and up, that are starting a family in New Carlisle, want to grow in New Carlisle. New Carlisle is a great city to grow up in. I grew up here. I get aggravated when people bash the city because, I mean, yes, we have our issues, but every city has their issues. I mean, I travel for a living. I drive thousands of miles a week with my job, and I'm in some of the quote unquote nicest cities in the area and some of the worst cities in the area. And, they don't vary much. So it aggravates when people denigrate New Carlisle because of one bad experience. And I think we need to promote what's good about New Carlisle. And you guys have. The council's done a great job. Like I said, they made massive improvements in infrastructure. Bringing back the fireworks 2 years ago was a fantastic idea. Again, I'm sad that we couldn't have it this year. But things like that, small little things like that, little steps like that, eventually 3, 5, 7 years down the road, they all paved the way to eventually becoming the community that we all think the city can be. To answer your question in short, I guess it's I don't have the exact answer, but if you're going to press me, I think we need to get them in settings that they feel most comfortable in. Trying to figure out what a 26 to 35-year-old feels most comfortable in. And unfortunately, at this time, it's not a council meeting where everyone's shouting over everybody else or they're afraid to voice their opinion because, they don't want to be looked down upon or shamed. I'm sorry. So I don't have the right answer. I don't have the wrong answer. Like I said, I think the council's doing a good job. I just think, it's just a small step. It's a very slow process. But, we got to continue to work. And like I said, I think I have no doubts the city will get to where everybody wants it to. It's just not going to be done overnight or in a year. It's going to take time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for applying.
Yes.
Go ahead, Linda.
You've brought up a situation in town that's dear to my heart. For some 20 years now, I've off and on been teaching English and citizenship to Hispanics and other foreign nationals in the city in the area. And when I ran for election, I mean, some of these people I've been teaching for years.
Yep.
And we are very close, very close. And a couple of them asked for me to give them signs to put in their yard because they felt that I would represent them. And the grief that they took on social media and in their neighborhoods brought me to tears.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I have struggled with how we communicate to people in our community who we serve because they are in our community, not because they are citizens of the United States.
Yes.
And I think it's something that, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's something that if we can work on that and figure out a way to reach out into that community and help them feel as if they are a part of the entire community, not just the Hispanic community.
Yes.
Everyone will end up benefiting from that.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think, their legal status, not in this process. I think, and you've seen Hispanics in the Latino community starting to grow more comfortable as we get into the second and third and even now fourth generation of of the community, people I went to school with, when they were younger, they were migrants, they would go back and forth, back and forth. Well, now, when we got to high school, they didn't migrate back and forth to Texas. They stayed throughout the year, and they had kids, and now their kids are starting to have kids. So, as you build generations and they feel comfortable in an area, they're more willing to put back into, reinvest in that area. And you see, even with home ownership now, there's so many more Latins that own homes in New Carlisle than there was 5 years ago. And that's not because home ownership is cheap in New Carlisle. It's not. It's cheaper than some of your surrounding areas, but it's still not cheap to live in New Carlisle. But they buy homes, they choose to buy homes in New Carlisle because they feel comfortable in New Carlisle. They feel comfortable with their neighbors. They feel comfortable with the surroundings. They like what the city offers, which is, a city feel, but still somewhat country living. New Carlisle is accessible to several big cities in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes. I think we need to play off of that moving forward. We need to play off of our very unique location. We still have much lower taxes than, say, some of your surrounding cities, whether it's Tipp City, Huber Heights, Troy, Springfield. So I think all those are positives for the city that we've promoted, but I think we all, we could do a better job. And having a new business development manager will definitely help, I think, as well, bringing in more local business. But back to your original question, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
Nope.
But yes, we need to, the Latin community is not going anywhere. It's going to continue to probably grow. And we need to embrace that, understand that, and learn how we all can grow together in doing that, instead of trying to ostracize them and make them feel like they're less of a human, whether they're legal or not at this point. Again, it's not for me to find out or judge. I want people here, whether they're legal or not. If you're a hardworking citizen and you go to work every day and you support your family and you do the things that we ask, your legal status to me really that'd be my last question.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Peg.
And you had mentioned that you travel a lot for work.
Yeah.
Well, that,
No, I'm home every day.
okay.
I leave in the morning. I'm a regional account manager for a tobacco company. So like today I drove all the way, I left the house about 7:30. I ended up in Brookville, then Greenville, then Versailles, Coldwater. Usually I'm out of town maybe a couple days every 5 or 6 weeks at most.
Okay.
For most part, I'm home daily. And that's by choice. And I got 3 young kids and a wife that all work from home, and with kids all homeschooling right now, it's not traveling and staying out of town is not in the cards. But no, I travel, I drive a lot, I'm, like I said, usually about 250 to 300 miles a day.
Okay.
Okay, Dan,
Yes,
back
sir.
to the situation at hand. I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but city council authorized that trash container up at the ballpark.
Yes, sir. Virgil and Kirby and I all met, Bill, it's probably been about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and I greatly appreciate that. That's going to save us a tremendous amount of money, which then in turn will allow us to put more money back into the ballpark, because every dime we save and earn, it goes right back in there. So I greatly appreciate that, sir.
Well, I think that was a good move upon council's part, since there have been several other situations that we've put in with the trash contract, and consequently, I think it's going to benefit the baseball association and the city at that point. Getting back to the situation at hand, as I explained to Mr. Cook just prior to you coming on board, we're looking at probably the difference between the budget and what we anticipated was a 3 million shortfall.
Yeah.
We're going to have to make some hard choices
Yes, sir.
here shortly. And basically, I think it's been most of council's thoughts that unless it's an emergency, we don't need to spend money to hold over due to the fact that we don't know when this coronavirus is going to, I guess the word is abate.
Absolutely.
I would assume that you can, I guess the word is commiserate with that and go along with those thoughts.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you know, New Carlisle's not alone in this situation. I mean, I don't think, truthfully, I don't think people realize what coronavirus or COVID-19 is going to do to local communities' budgets here over the next probably 3 to 5 months. As 2021 rolls in, you start looking at your tax revenue and what you're not going to get versus what you've estimated you were going to collect based off of previous years. There's going to be a lot of hard decisions made, not just by the city of New Carlisle, but surrounding cities. And saying that, let's hope the federal government comes in with some relief package. I know the first go around of the relief package really focused on large corporations and citizens. But hopefully this next second package will hopefully focus more on states, municipalities, schools that are all going to be feeling the crunch. And for $3 million for the city of New Carlisle, that's a huge hit. That's not laying off a secretary or furloughing, an office worker. That's some serious number. That's going to take a lot of negotiations, a lot of thought, something that's not going to get resolved over one session. It's just not, unfortunately.
Well,
you know,
with this council coming into play, I personally thought, and with our budget, that we had a really good idea, a good handle, and many improvements to be made to the city.
Mhm.
And this virus kind of knocked the socks right out from underneath it.
Yep.
But other than that, that's pretty much all of what I've got. Anybody else got any further questions for Dan?
No.
If not, Dan, I think at this point, we will probably make a decision tomorrow night at that special meeting of council
Okay.
as to which one of you gentlemen are going to be the successful, I guess the word is council person.
All righty, sir.
We do greatly appreciate the fact that you have responded. And as Mr. Cobb has said, both to you and Mr. Cook, don't be surprised if you don't get this round. We still have 3 positions open coming up in November 21. I think Mr. Cobb, myself, and Peggy are all up for either re-election or vacancies.
All righty, sir.
Mr. Bridge, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Guys,
Thank
have a
you.
good evening.
You too.
You're on mute, Dan, Randy.
Okay, let me get my, the rest of the administrative staff in.
Mr. Bridge, I'm going to throw it back to you. Respond.
Thanks, Dan.
Whoever's got the IP on.
You're on mute, Dan, Randy.
You guys hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess after that, we move on to the legislation discussion. You want to hit the highlights on that, Randy?
Hey, Colin, can you go ahead and log
Yeah.
on to the meeting? Thanks.
Pardon?
Can you go ahead and join the meeting?
Well, it's just spinning.
Yeah, exit out and then come back in.
Okay,
right.
thank you.
If not, then we'll just catch you on the 7 o'clock meeting. All right. Thank you, Mr. Cook. And let me get my agenda here so I can, where we're at. So we're on the legislation discussion. So for tonight, we have got ordinance 2020-30. That is the non-discrimination that was brought on as a request of a few council members. So that was introduced on 9/8 of 2020. But this particular legislation piece will actually amend certain parts of our code that deals with city employees to include some sexual orientation protection on there. So that is up for vote tonight. We also have ordinance 2020-34, and that is to increase our appropriations for the CARES Act funding that we had got, the $45,910.60. So that was part of the CARES Act funding. That since we receded that and we're going to expend it, we need to amend our budget to match that. And then introduced for tonight, we've got three. We have ordinance 2020-35. That is for an agreement for our biosolids, which is our sludge removal at our wastewater plant. That is something we do about every 2 or 3 years. And then on 2020-36, it's another supplement on our budget. So I've been putting on the manager report the past few meetings that we're going to be doing some work on our 2020 appropriations as a result of our previous finance director. So we have some things that we need to take care of tonight. And ordinance 2020-36 actually decreases our appropriation. So it's money that we did not spend that we need to put back into the books. So that is on for the health levy, then also the swimming pool. And then the last ordinance that's introduced tonight is 2020-37, and that is the rates for our wastewater. So again, that is just introduced tonight. At some point in time tonight in the regular meeting, I will be requesting a special meeting for next week to discuss those water rates in detail. So that is all for the legislation.
Okay, that brings us down to the open discussion related to city business. Anybody got anything? Mr. Bridge.
I'd like to toss something out for people to think about, if at all possible. Somehow I had it in my brain, in my heart, I don't know where, that part of a function of the city council is to envision where we would like the city to be and work towards making that happen. And I've been, over the months that I've been on council now, which is just over 9, not seen very much of that. And I was wondering if there isn't some way that we can set aside some work session time that we can talk about things that we want to see happen in town and what our vision, what our dream is for where we're going. Am I off base?
That, is an excellent idea. And I think that this would go along with what I'm going to say, that, most city councils have a quote unquote council retreat. And consequently, some of these things are brought up, discussed at great length. I don't think that in these retreats, anything is put in stone, but it kind of gives everybody some kind of an idea of which direction we need to go and what we want to see happen. Mr. Bridge and I had a little bit of a discussion about several things today. One of these was the retreat. The other was the sewer plant. And I, at this point, don't even remember what the rest of them were because we talked for great length. But I will commiserate with you and think that at some point in time, this will help our direction, not only on the CIP program, the budget upcoming for 21, but I think this is something that council needs to sit down and figure out what we can do, be it an all-day session at a remote location where we're all together. I don't know how much of city administration Mr. Bridge would want to bring in, whether several different departments, and possibly get some kind of an idea of what their directions are. And at that point, we can possibly put together a roadmap for where this city's going to go.
That's a good idea.
Anybody else have any input? Go ahead, Mr. Cobb.
First thing, Mr. Bridge and my fellow council members, I'd like to apologize for my outrage here at the last meeting. A little bit rude, I'm sorry. And then the next thing, Mr. Bridge, if I could ask you, please. Is he there?
Yep.
Did not Chief Trustee offer them tables down at the firehouse?
I know they're going to be replacing them at some point in time. I don't think he has replaced them yet.
No,
No, we
I'm-
have,
Pardon?
no, we have not yet.
I mean, I don't see no problem buying your tables like you're saying, but I was wondering if those would be better tables down there than the plastic ones whenever Chief Trustee's ready to relinquish them. And something else I'd like to ask you, Mr. Bridge, if it's possible. In Illinois, there was a 15-year-old boy who took a section of downtown street. He painted in between the yellow lines, he painted half of it red, half of it blue in support for the fire and EMS
Mhm.
and our law enforcement. Is that feasible?
I don't have an issue with it as long as it's not done in permanent. But then it's going to be open to other people coming to maybe color something they support as well that we'd have to be open to. But stuff like that, I think it's a great show of community. But again, there's always the possibility that someone else would come in and do something similar. But I don't have an issue with it as long as it's not spray paint.
It's just a thought. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how to go about this. I mean, I just thought it'd be something, a nice gesture towards our fire and
Mhm.
law enforcement.
Yeah, it would be. It would be a nice gesture, absolutely. But it's something we definitely. I mean, Mr. Kiko, do you have any issue with what's being proposed or potentially being proposed as far as with parking spaces and coloring them?
The only thing I would have is it'll be replaced in less than 2 years. So there'll be restriping coming up. Not really. You know, if they put thermo back down as our center line when they repave, those tend to hold water. So whatever they put in there may not last as long. You know, the water stays in between those two yellow lines. But I mean, I really don't, outside of that, no.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just talking about that block downtown. The one block of the main downtown.
Like the whole block?
Yeah,
100
in
South.
between Washington and Jefferson.
Okay, gotcha. And then like the parking spaces would be,
No, this would be right between the yellow lines in the center of the street.
I misunderstood you. I see what you're saying now. Okay. Yeah, I've seen that done before, actually.
There was a 15-year-old boy, I seen it on the news, done it out in Illinois.
And what a great road to do it on. It's a very high traffic road for us in town. So yeah. I say get some information on it and then we'll go with Mr. Kiko just to make sure it's all good to go. But yeah, good
I
idea.
mean, that's just a strong support for, for the sheriff and the fire department.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you want to get information on it, we'd gladly entertain that. 100%.
Anybody else got anything? If not, I have a couple of things. Mr. Kitco, I had a complaint regard to the trash containers out at Smith Park. Did you see that on Facebook? here tonight?
Negative. I do not get on Facebook like maybe once a month.
Okay. There was a complaint on there about the trash cans being full and trash on the ground. I'm certain you'd like to look into that and see what kind of problems we've got.
They are emptied Mondays and usually Fridays before the weekend. So unless there might have been an event or someone had to get together and filled them in between, but typically they're emptied at least once a week, if not twice, if we know something's going on. But I'll definitely check in. There could have been a miss also.
Okay. Second factor. Mr. Hutchison, I appreciate that spreadsheet you sent out to council in regard to the citations. However, I noticed that we have some habituals on there. And I would assume that somewhere down the line, there might be a way that we can kind of keep these habituals off of there and possibly keep ourselves from getting into a tax problem again with these same people.
Yes, definitely. We are currently preparing this week. We have probably just maybe 10 to 12 properties that we are going to be citing into court this week. So that's step one. Also, this fall, winter, we'll be working on proposal for possible civil fines. So yeah, I mean, there has to be an ultimate consequence, for disobeying, the laws and rules. Notices themselves, ultimately don't do much. So there has to be an end result, and the main goal is compliance. And if we're struggling to get that or someone to help work with us on that, then unfortunately that's going to be our next steps that we have to go to.
Okay, Linda, go ahead.
Is there a way that with these people who are habitual, that it can scale up so that it becomes much more advantageous for them to pay it? Knowing that if they don't pay it this month, next month it's going to double. And the month after that,
Definitely.
it's going to double again.
Definitely. So currently in our code, with the minor misdemeanor charges, when we cite, there is a step for second and third and so on offenses. The same thing would be for the civil route as well. There'll be a tiers that, and so length amount of time, however many violations within a year, you go up a step each time. So yeah, there is definitely a process as what you bring up there that will be proposed in a civil matter, and currently we do have that in the minor misdemeanor criminal section of our code.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Do we need a motion to excuse Mr. Lowry
So
from
moved.
today's meetings?
Second.
Vice Mayor Cook.
I think Chief had something.
Yeah, I don't know if it was already brought up or anything. I just need to find out a little bit of information as far as does the council thought or said anything as far as for Halloween for October.
Today, the sheriff set aside Saturday, October 31st from 6 to 8.
Yes.
There's actually a section on the regular meeting agenda actually to discuss that.
Okay.
Regular.
Do you
And
want to
it's
put that off?
7:01, just a heads up to everyone. And we have a motion from Councilwoman Noakowski to excuse Mayor Lowry. I did not catch the second.
Second.
Cobb, okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments? If not, Mrs. Burner.
All right, Councilwoman Eggleston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cook,
Yes.
Councilman Grimm,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noakowski,
Yes.
Councilman Cobb.
Yes.
All right, that motion's accepted 5-0.
Move to
All right.
adjourn.
Do we want to get into that Baker's Night now, or do you want to do that in a regular session, Mr. Bridge?
It's 7:02, so we should probably end this session and go into regular session.
All right.
I heard a mo-
I am going to need to talk to Casey when we're done here because I haven't received any emails since September 17th.
All
Did
right.
you not get the email I sent you earlier for the agenda, Mr. Grimm, Councilman Grimm?
I have not received any emails since September 17th at 11:38 a.m.
Okay. We'll have Casey get a hold of you, more than likely, probably tomorrow, but let's go ahead and adjourn this so we can
Well,
get.
that's not going to help me with the information I need for the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Mr. Grimm, do you have another email address we can send that to?
Yes.
Tell you what, Mr. Grimm, once we're done with the live feed, I'll call you, so you don't have to give that email address over the air.
All right.
I heard Linda's first to motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Peggy, I heard you first, so. All right. Vice Mayor Cook,
Yes.
Councilman Grimm,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noakowski,
Yes.
Councilman Cobb.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Eggleston.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn is accepted 5-0.